Streaming social. Yep. Okay, so it's starting. It's not live yet.
Yeah, I gotta learn how to do all this stuff.
You're live. Oh, no. It says we're live. And they can totally see it. There it is.
There we go.
There's a slight delay. Hold on.
That's fine.
We're just setting up here. Hold on. Is that link good? Yeah, that one's good.
All right.
Okay.
There we go.
I'm just dropping links. And I'll tweet.
Yeah, like hashtag Bitcoin, hashtag Ethereum. No, don't start with me.
Okay.
Because that will be direct message to me. So,
Fucking Ethereum.
and actually not just like that, Ethereum project, but also Pound. No, you gotta optimize it, man. Yep, Ethereum, and then $ETH. On today's and Unconfirmed Transaction podcast.
We're doing that. We're gonna.
No, you guys really got 55 more letters there. You gotta max it out. With Tone LLT, say for use your podcast house. Unconfirmed Transactions podcast. All right.
That's you.
All right. Oh, you probably should put the word live feed in there. Damn.
I called it a live cast.
Yeah, but not in the tweet. That's all right. Next time. Next time, I'll yeah, you gotta go in ahead of time. We'll have it ready. Just waiting. We'll just wait for the link, and I'll reply to it.
I got some notifications. You retweeted me. Yeah, we're good.
Yep.
I think we're good. So let's just start because
right.
that's all taken care of.
Yep. We put it in group chats.
Yeah, I don't think we have any more to do there.
Fine. Let me just put it in one more group chat. Get the link from Twitter.
We're live now.
All right, we're live. Good to go.
Can you hear that?
No,
It's fine.
I can barely see.
Alrighty. So here we are live, and we got 4 watchers. Okay, we're good. Let's just start it out.
I'm gonna be on a little delay here.
Yeah, there's gonna be a delay, so that's fine.
All right.
So welcome to the Unconfirmed Transactions live edition, first ever.
This is episode 3 overall,
Episode 3,
right?
yes.
All right.
I'm here with Tone Vays. It's really cheap. It's gonna be way too weird to watch ourselves.
We gotta start all over now because it's for the podcast.
All right. Welcome to the 3rd episode of Unconfirmed Transactions. I'm Dan Anderson here with Tone Vays to talk about Ethereum and to talk about the congressional hearing recently.
Oh, thanks for having me on.
We met recently at an Ethereum meetup, one of the first for Bitcoin New York City's. So Bitcoin New York City had an Ethereum meetup, which in itself was strange, and we went out to see, what was up.
Yeah, no, I think it was more. It's Bitcoin devs. I think it's a New York City Bitcoin meetup that I haven't really been going to, and this time the topic for the day for the event was Ethereum. It was called Ethereum for Dummies. So it was really interesting, and one of our friends from Florida was in town, and we decided to just go to this meetup.
So,
and that's where I got to meet Dan for the first time. I already heard the first 2 episodes of his podcast, Unconfirmed Transactions, and it was pretty good. And I'm happy to join him in Brooklyn at his pad for hosting us. And here we go. We're going to do episode 3 about Ethereum. And then, I don't know, should we save the hearings for episode 4? Or we're going to try and do it all here today? We'll see. We'll see how it goes.
Tony, you're such a professional.
No. It's just I've been meaning to get my own podcast. So I'm just happy to be a guest on other people's.
Okay, so so we got there and we checked it out, met you there, and people are filing in, and it was packed. I mean, they ran out of seats.
Oh yeah, it got packed. I'm pretty sure that normally their meetups are not this big, but when you put the word Ethereum on top of it, oh, the newbies showed up. There were people there that did not even have a Satoshi in a wallet. They didn't even have wallets, but they were there to learn about Ethereum, and that's taking things to another level.
Yeah, they're trying to learn the blockchain through Ethereum, and there were so many times where I was asked questions about Ethereum, and I was like, I don't know, but let me tell you about Bitcoin. Or when there was an Ethereum user or expert there, almost always when they started to explain Ethereum, it would inevitably revert to talking about Bitcoin. And someone at one point even said, like, don't tell me about Bitcoin, tell me specifically about Ethereum. I'm here for the Dummies 101 Ethereum.
Yeah, that was great. I think you also said that at one point, just to kind of, because you were there to learn about Ethereum. Look, I don't know much about Ethereum either. I'm a critic of Ethereum. You're a critic of Ethereum. We don't know that much about Ethereum, and honestly, nobody does. I've talked to Ethereum devs, and I don't think they know about Ethereum. They just keep telling me how great it is. I still haven't gotten any significant answer as to what it's good for.
Well, one of the examples because there was a dev there, and he was with a thing called Ethereum, which I believe is like a Minecraft-like game in Ethereum. And his example, he was like, here's a great example, is you could use it no problem for a domain name system. And I went over this on my last episode, but I just don't think we need a new domain name system. But that's aside the point. There was a reporter next to me. I saw a guy with a little notepad.
Oh yeah, I was talking to him for a little while. That was interesting. You sit there and you try to explain to these people what a blockchain is. It was really interesting. They came up with these cases like, oh, we're gonna put titles. We're gonna decentralize the titling system of land, and they're just coming up with these things like, guys, I keep telling them, Bitcoin did one thing really well. It decentralized value transfer. For the first time, we were able to decentralize something. It's not perfect 100% decentralization, but it's as close as we've ever had anything. And now everyone wants to decentralize everything. It's really, really something. But yeah, so we're gonna go through some of the other things that we picked up from going to this Ethereum meetup.
I think what we kept drilling into too was like, why would I need Ethereum? And they're just like, it's decentralized. But like, it's okay, why would I want that? I see this all the time. They're like, decentralization is like just automatically good. Like almost like you should know why we need decentralization. You should just know. But it's not clear like that either. So, but one of the things the reporter, when I brought him up, he's like, I've been to some of the meetings, like 3 or 4 meetings recently, and I'm looking for the story, and it seems like the story is this thing is worth $1 billion. That's what he thought the story was after going to several meetings trying to learn about it.
Yeah, like I really want to stay open-minded and learn about Ethereum, but it's hard. It's really, really difficult because they don't give me like a foundation. I know they all make fun of the fact, well, what is Bitcoin good for? It's only good for the black market. You can buy drugs, you can buy whatever. It has this bad stigma. But they keep talking about the bad things. I'm like, yeah, but I understand that. I understand it. I don't understand why we need to decentralize titles. I've never met anyone that had a problem getting a title from a title company.
You actually brought that up, and 2 people raised their hands, and one guy said, oh, the problem with titles is that it costs me like
$6,000, he said, which probably meant he was buying, I don't know, a warehouse or something difficult, because I've bought several properties, and yeah, it costs over $1,000, but it's the way it is. And you're not going to change the system from the outside in. These systems have to change from the inside. I have the same criticism for Patrick Byrne. I've had it from the beginning, where you're one guy. You're not gonna change Wall Street from the outside. Wall Street has to change itself. And if 99.9% of Wall Street do not have a problem with 3-day settlement times or shorting stocks, it's not going to change.
Right. So that's what we kept bringing up was like, it seems like there's Ethereum, there's got to be a specific use case. Like what's its wheelhouse? What is it good at? Or as Chris Rode might say, like what's the efficiency, right? We kept bringing that up. And the meetup, the guy that was running the meetup was like, well, basically Ethereum is a solution looking for a problem.
Yeah.
You know, he was like, it's hyped
Okay,
up.
I will.
It's very honest. You know?
I will defend the organizer, Jonathan Mohan, who did a pretty good job. He's a Bitcoin guy, and he was running the Ethereum meetup. He's not an Ethereum pumper. So when we kept putting him on the spot, well, what is Ethereum good for? His answer eventually was, well, Ethereum is a solution still looking for a problem. And I respect that. You know, that was an honest answer. That was an honest answer.
But at the same time, this was an Ethereum for Dummies 101 level meetup. And he went straight away into like, there was one point where he said, does anyone here know what the Turing test is? And then he got into how we're going to have an AI on top of Ethereum that's going to hire sentient beings and have like a human army run by an AI and like really. So I think a lot of times when I talk to Ethereum supporters, it's like they want some sort of futurism to be delivered by Ethereum. Like they're going to do a great leap forward somewhere. And I don't think they know where.
Yeah, and the other thing that it was, you know what? I think it was also a bit of, I guess, mislabeling. When he named it Ethereum for Dummies, you kind of assume you're going to show up there and you'll get like a 30-minute presentation on the basics of Ethereum. But that's not what it was. It was just a discussion about Ethereum and blockchains, and some of us, like me included and yourself, moved the discussion into Bitcoin because Bitcoin kept being mentioned. Like you said, it was a lot of, well, it's like Bitcoin.
Mm-hmm.
It does so-and-so like Bitcoin, but it'll do it better than Bitcoin.
Mm-hmm.
And then towards the end, because, I felt like we were not going to get to this, I had him, hey, so can we talk about the Ethereum price? Because I bet you, there was a good, 50 people there? 50
I would
at
say
least?
more. I would say
More than 50?
60, 70.
Like 60, 70. And I would say a good 20, 25% of them were there just to speculate on the value of Ethereum. And I'm like, hey, so can we talk about the token? Because I'm so critical of Ethereum, and all my criticism start with the token. The token. Somebody building technology doesn't bother me. Like same thing with MadeSafe, which will let you store somebody else's data, pieces of their data on your hard drive. I'm not sure why you would let somebody else do that, but that's a discussion for another day. But I have no problem with that project until they decided to, kind of crowdfund and sell their token, which wasn't as bad. I've spoken to that team directly, but my problem is with this Ethereum token. And I really need to do a little more research, but from what I already know, it just feels scammy to me. I don't know what your opinion on that is.
I think it's also very complicated. So because if you try to look into it, they'll say, I see people saying, oh, it's not a token, it's not a coin. We're not trying to make money here. It's more like oil. You have to burn it to use the thing. And then there's a gas element because to limit processing in some way. So the Ethereum pays for the gas, which pays for the processing power. It's very complex. And the whole thing is needlessly complex.
But who's actually using it that way?
So I've looked at, there's actually maybe in the show notes I'll put up a Dapps list. And some of the uses that are actually being used for right now are verifiable Ponzi schemes. So the developer of the Ponzi scheme is at the top of the pyramid. And then if you pay into the smart contract, you become the next level of the pyramid. And if the pyramid level below you gets filled up, the people above them get paid out. And it's like a smart contract, but it's for Ponzi schemes.
Right. Like, wow, that's interesting. Like, okay, so what do you think a smart contract is?
What do I think a smart contract. I don't like when smart gets thrown in front of anything. It's like an opportunity to stop thinking. But I think smart contracts are largely just code. It's just code.
Oh yeah, can we get more specific than that? Like,
Uh-huh.
because I'll give you my opinion, right? Because people say smart contracts, and I always ask them, well, explain to me what a smart contract is, and usually conversation kind of dies there because people like to throw out these terms and they can't explain them. So just because your contract is not written on paper, but it's written in computer code, does that make it a smart contract? I don't think it does, but I don't know.
Yeah, maybe I think that makes sense. How it's used matters. Like they're just because that was even a discussion at the meetup though. It was that maybe all these terms are bad. But my understanding of a smart contract is you write this in Serpent language, you write this code, you put it to the blockchain, and now I can review your code, and I know that when I send value to that code, I know what the output will be, and the output might be many different things, but.
Right, but does that need to be decentralized?
No, so there was a guy there from Russia who was like, I'm trying to find out like how we can use these smart contract things, and I don't get it. And in his point, and I agreed with him, was like, why don't we just do this with our own server? Like, if you trust the parties involved, why can't you just execute this code on your server?
Well, again, right? What if even if you don't? Again, you can trust the parties involved, but one party may not trust the other person's server. So my answer to a lot of these people, okay, fine. Why can't you find a third party and encrypt all of your information of your contract and then send it to this trusted third party that cannot read what is inside your contract? And this third party is only responsible for one thing: execution of the contract.
And I brought up this public nature of the code during the meeting, and the guy next to me was like, well, open source software exists, and it's like not a problem. It's not a problem. Public code, like it's there's so many things you can use with public code, but if I'm going to write a contract, I want that to be private.
Right.
I don't want people to see my contracts inner workings. I don't want that.
Of course not.
So it seems like there's a very specific niche it seems like this has a very limited use case, and no one at the meeting can articulate to you what that use case is. And all the use cases they suggest are things we already have.
Right. But again, same thing with titles. I mean, you don't need to decentralize it. You just need to, if you want it to be private, encrypt it, and send it to a third-party company that is just responsible for holding that data. They don't know what that data is. They're just competent at holding it. And I still don't understand. I still don't know what the definition of a smart contract is. Does it have to be decentralized? Does it have to be just written in a computer code that can execute? And if the computer code executes a smart contract, something has to be exchanged, right? At the end of any contract, I mean, unless you're just talking to each other, right? There has to be something of value being transferred at the end of this contract.
Maybe one of the biggest problems you're pointing out is they were saying, well, contracts at their heart are very simple. But contracts aren't that simple,
No.
It's like here's what we intend to do, but here's all like if it goes wrong, we'll do this, or there's recourse. I think most of these smart contracts have almost no recourse,
Well, we're right. It's like another thing. They're talking about these smart contracts, but it's like they lose all notion that at the end, when this contract executes, something of value has to go from one entity to another. Whether it's to computers, to people, a person and a computer. Something of value has to be transferred, right, at the end of any contract. Otherwise, what's the point?
Mm-hmm.
And what value are you talking about? What are we transferring here? Titles, money, stock, securities, information. Even if it's information, that information has to be moved from one entity to another. So the information will move. Is the contract itself going to move it? And what are they actually moving?
Here's an example of one. We're looking at Etherboard.io. I just pulled it up on screen. And so this is a smart contract that I use. I tried out. And basically, I uploaded an image and I paid Ether and apparently this went into the Ether thing, and then the value I got is that it showed up here, and I put the counterparty logo. But this is an example of a smart contract.
I don't get it.
Yeah, no, it's stupid. That's because it's stupid. Like, you could do this with a
I'm looking
You
at this
don't
thing for the
need-
first time. I don't get it. I'm sorry.
You don't need Ethereum, or you don't need decentralization for this. This is something a server can handle.
So here's an example. Here's what I don't know if this is a smart contract or not, but I see this as a good use case. And this was brought up to me in San Diego. I was talking to some guy from a car company that is interested in, I think they were going into risky loans for people with bad credit so they can get money to buy a car.
I like that.
So they're going to give him money, real money. And he had bit in the title of his company, and after he was explaining it to me, I'm like, so what does this have to do with Bitcoin in any way? He's like, no, not really.
But with the Bitcoin.
Yeah, well, no, not even. I'm like, does this have anything to do with Bitcoin? And he said, no. He's like, but we're looking into this blockchain thing, so what we want to do is after we give a loan, we want to, use the notary service of the blockchain and put the registration of the car and the loan, like the information of the loan, put it into the blockchain, put it into the Telios of Christ, as our friends like to call it.
Do you want to get into notarization, Tone?
No, I don't know. So that's what I told him also. And I'm like, so you guys are a big car company that are going to get into loaning, but you don't apparently trust your own database? That's what I asked him. And he agreed with me. So I said, okay, so just forget about that idea. It's unnecessary. So here's what happens when you loan money to high-risk people. He's like, well, if we're going to do this and we're loaning money to buy a car, probably they're doing it to sell their cars because they were a car company. And so we're going to have this really serious GPS like built into the car, right? Because they're giving a car to a high-risk individual.
Right.
So they now have this embedded GPS that tells them where the car is. And they're like, there will just really pretty much two possibilities here, right? The guy doesn't make a payment, and they have to go and get the car back. Or two, the car's been stolen, and they want to get their car back, or reported stolen, right? We all know how these things go. I'm like, okay, that sounds great. So that's why you have that GPS. But I'm a big privacy advocate. So now I go into, well, people are starting to get on this thing. Like, people don't like to be tracked. They're finally starting to realize it. Took them a while, but people are starting, I think the corner is turning.
Mm-hmm.
That people are getting tired of being trapped. So how are you going to get around this issue? And he didn't have an answer to that. So here's my example of a smart contract. So you lend a person a car, or you sell them the car, you lend them the money, give them the car, you put this serious tracker in the car. Because again, I don't care if the car company knows where I am. The car company can't come after me.
You're worried about the government.
I'm worried about
the arms.
I'm worried about the government subpoenaing the company to know where I am.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure so do a lot of people that may need this car.
Right.
So, and I asked them, I'm like, so how are you protecting your client base from a government subpoena to your company for your GPS data? Because they know your cars have this advanced GPS in the motor that cannot be removed.
Mm-hmm.
And he didn't have an answer. So I said, so here's a smart contract. When they exist, because they don't, you encrypt this data, and the smart contract executes and allows you to view the GPS location of the car upon the following two conditions. The car is reported stolen and there is a police report, or there is an automatic, or there is a mispayment. Upon one of those two conditions, the smart contract executes. It gives you the power to look at the GPS and go find the car. That's it. If the government comes to you with a subpoena and says, we want to know where this guy is, the answer is, well, I'm sorry, FBI agent. We don't have access to this data. You can go find him, make him miss a payment, and then we'll tell you where the car is.
That's true. Yeah, the conditions are met. So as long as the contract's getting paid, or you can feed the contract a number that points to the police record, for example. That gets into oracles and stuff, but they were starting to bring that up. Ethereum needs to have something outside to get the data input it needs.
Yeah, and somebody mentioned Augur at that meeting, and I just did this.
Well, what do you? So one of the things I was thinking about today, what I brought up at the meeting was like, it seems to me if everything's public, rather than look at I would look at Ethereum, the network itself, as the oracle, and I would see what people are doing, and I would say, okay, there's all this activity here that's very public to me. How can I now extract value from those people's now public activity? I would look at like what people were trading, or like one of the things I would think is they were talking about DAOs, which is like a DAO is I don't know. But I think you could create DAOs to attack DAOs. Like, I feel like you could create contracts that attack contracts and exploit contracts.
Yeah, no, they were throwing out acronyms left and right over there.
The other thing, I forgot. Oh, with Augur. Here's an idea. What if all these altcoins? What if those are in fact the prediction market already? Like, when you put money into an altcoin, are you making a bet that Bitcoin won't work? Like, we have gambling, and it's called altcoins.
I don't think so. I don't think you're making a bet. I mean, if you're putting your money into an altcoin, like you've got fed up with Bitcoin and you pick one or multiple altcoins, and that's your long term, then you're making a bet that Bitcoin won't work.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're just a speculative trader, it's not the same thing.
You said there's multiple.
Yeah, there's multiple levels of altcoiners.
Well, maybe we should look at one right now. You want to pull up the or is that too soon?
I think it's too soon. We'll get to that in a second. No, what I was going to mention on Augur. Okay, so here's what I tried to explain at that meetup to people. So Bitcoin took off because of properties that governments don't like. Actually, you're not in one of these group chats. I listed my 7 levels of Bitcoin usefulness.
Okay.
And I started with the first one that I remember to my knowledge, and it was donating to parties that the government doesn't like. And to me, that was WikiLeaks.
Yeah, they did an economic blockade.
Right. So the next use case for Bitcoin was buying things that the government doesn't like, which was the Silk Road situation.
Mm-hmm.
My number 3 use case for Bitcoin was using it for gambling. That was one of the pushes that got me into buying some Bitcoin.
Mm-hmm.
But I did hear about it in the WikiLeaks days. I'm trying to remember them in order, though I can pull up my phone, but I don't want to do that. My 4th case was paying for services the government doesn't like, which we have webcams and porn sites, mm-hmm. and escorts are using it on. I don't like to call them escorts here. I have an article saying, well, escorts take it to the next level. I don't like that term. I prefer independent contractors.
There you go. It's a legitimate business. It's just not. It depends who's looking at it.
It depends on what jurisdiction, and honestly, it depends how it's being enforced. Mm-hmm. Because when people tell me, it's so funny. People are like, "Well, isn't that illegal?" And my common answer to that is, yes. So is prostitution in Thailand, mm-hmm. right? It's like, what is being enforced? It's what's being enforced. Is the question. So those are my and then after that, now I'm getting into really heavy stuff. Now I'm like, well, it might be, and I probably shouldn't say this because someone will get upset. It's really a good way to protect some of your assets before you get married in case you get divorced.
I can see that.
So that's another.
Or before going to jail.
Right, or before going to jail. And it's a great way to protect your assets. And then the next level up is protecting some of your assets from government confiscation. We're not going to get into the details of what that might entail, but all of those to me don't even compare to the ultimate use case of Bitcoin, which is moving value cross borders, large amounts of value. Now, and that is my list for functionality of Bitcoin that makes sense. Now, notice what I did not say on this list is buying Starbucks coffee and buying things from Amazon, because sorry guys, that's not important.
For everything that's legal, there's MasterCard. For everything else,
there's Bitcoin.
Right?
Right.
And that message did not land on. It didn't resonate with the people at that meeting.
So the reason why I've just brought this up is because here's what I also brought up at that Ethereum meetup. You are trying to decentralize contracts. Obviously, we have the technology to create digital computer contracts. We had this technology before Bitcoin. Your computer can execute a contract. What Ethereum is doing is it's going to decentralize it. So what are they? The question is why. So what I try to explain to them, the only reason to decentralize a contract is if there is something in that contract that the jurisdiction of where the contract is being executed does not like what you're doing.
Well, when you were talking about Augur, they think the issue with Augur is like, well, we have to find an oracle to tell us the truth. But you brought up, it's like, I can check out the sports scores on ESPN. I can find places to make bets. The problem that the betting industry has is payments. It's, making the payments to each other. That's the problem they have. It's not like, who do we turn to find out the truth about the outcome of the game? They don't have problems with that. You have problems with payments. And Augur is setting up to have this reputation system where you can like report what actually happened, and then you get a reward for it, and that's like how they feel like their system will actually work. But we don't have issues with finding out who won the sports game.
Well, we don't, which is why sports betting is useless for Augur, right? So what I just said for Ethereum is going to apply to Augur. So the only reason to decentralize a contract is if it's a contract that the law in your jurisdiction will not let you make in a non-decentralized way. And the Augur is going to have the same problem. The only reason to use Augur is if you are betting on something that the current betting institutions will not let you bet on.
Mm-hmm.
And then you need some kind of an oracle with reputation to tell you if it happened. Because there is no centralized entity that is trusted enough to tell you the answer.
Mm-hmm.
Or there is a trusted entity that will tell you the answer, but the question is not legal. So we can speculate on what an illegal question is. You want to take a guess? I have one in my head.
An illegal question, when someone will die.
Correct.
Assassination Markets.
Exactly.
Yeah. If you're in front of a computer right now, Google assassination markets or politics.
I would not Google that. I would first open another browser that cannot be tracked. Well, I was going to go, sorry, not browser. I would first open another...
Tor.
Yeah. Wait, that is a browser. Tor is a browser.
Yeah.
Search engine. We said that goes a search engine. It's not a browser. Mm-hmm. So I would first open another browser, like a Tor, and then I would open a search engine in that browser that is like a DuckDuckGo, and then I would make a search for an assassination market. But so that's what's going to happen. And again, you may need a decentralized Ethereum-style contract in order for you to get your value from a contract like the question I had was, will Donald Trump be assassinated before the general election? Which is probably, the odds are going to be pretty interesting on that. I would love to see those odds. But that is the kind of question you cannot bet on a centralized gambling website.
Yeah,
so you will need something like Augur to put that question up so that you can place your bets on it. You may need a decentralized contract, like whatever Ether is trying to do,
mm-hmm.
in order to get your payment.
Mm-hmm.
And guess what currency that payment's going to be in?
Is it Bitcoin?
Correct.
Oh, ding, 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 ding.
So here's another question, right? So why do you need Augur's reputation points or Ethers? If Bitcoin is the value, is the decentralized value, why can't you achieve both of those by using your Bitcoin as your reputation?
I don't know, Tom. I don't.
Or using your Bitcoins to execute an Ethereum contract. I
bum around in the Augur Reddit, so I look at what they're saying. They're expecting on the order of $1 billion in volume per month. So if we're talking about only very small number of bets that are like specifically not possible elsewhere, I just don't see it adding up to that level. They think they're going to eat into this existing system, and I don't think they are. Like, all these things are good for these dark corners, which we don't have access to now. And when we were talking about at the meeting about the decentralization of contracts, It seems to me that's what's really crucial in that, which never came up, but we were just talking about, is privacy. If you can find me and you know that I put that contract up there, the fact that my contract is decentralized doesn't protect me. So how do I use Ethereum privately? How do I stay anonymous? And concepts of fungibility and privacy are just not in the discussion for Ethereum, but they're central to that happening.
I don't know. I find that really, I find that bizarre. It's like the Ethereum crowd is trying to play the, well, we don't have the reputation of Bitcoin card.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we're not in the dark markets. We're legit. But they don't realize the only usefulness their contracts will have to make decentralization is incredibly inefficient. So the only reason to make something decentralized is if it's something that the government doesn't like. They don't realize that is their first use case, which hasn't even been achieved yet. Which is why, until I see, okay, this is one that's changed my mind on Ether. When I see Ethereum contracts being used for markets government jurisdictions consider illegal, I will then perhaps say, you know what, there is a use case for Ethereum.
Mm-hmm. Maybe one way to put it is that inefficient is better than not possible.
Correct.
And the thing that I always see people saying, they're like, decentralization is efficient. That's always the I see that a lot though. Decentralization is efficient.
It's ridiculous though.
It keeps getting repeated. And it's like, whoa, hold on, buddy. Hold on. Like that is not an efficiency. You know, it's just not.
So that was pretty much my view on these markets. And again, let's see where Ether goes. But let's talk about briefly the price of Ether, because this is we're gonna play a little clip of a video.
But let's set it up. So what's the price of Ether right now? It seems like the price action is largely related to the fact that the Bitcoin system is having an issue of scaling. Maybe there's a lot of talk right now about scalability, and that's leading people to run into Ethereum because Ethereum will scale. But will Ethereum scale? Because if it's used at any level, I feel like instantly that gets centralized, and you have Microsoft and Amazon hosting all the servers, and you know there's just no. I don't know how you can keep a system like that centralized where there's no limit on the data. I mean, there's very small limits on the data, and I also think if the price goes high enough, it's going to limit a bunch of use cases. They're already having problems. These developers thought Ethereum would be good because it'd be cheaper, but if the price runs up, all of a sudden your processing power goes up. So you have a basically what I imagine it being is a lot like cloud computing, but more expensive.
I'm not exactly sure about that.
I'm just speculating.
Yeah, no, because I don't think they know what's going to happen. Nobody does, right? So with the Ethereum price being so high, it creates these weird incentives now. So you don't know what's going to happen. I don't really know their mining structure. I know a couple of miners that didn't throw away all their, I guess, GPU. I'm not sure. I'm not a mining guy.
Right now, they're proof of work, but they're planning to go to proof of stake.
Right, but they're proof of work. But is it graphics cards? Is it because I know mining operations that had all their useless mining gear just laying around, and now it's useful for Ethereum. So
I think it's GPUs right now.
GPUs,
but pretty advanced graphic cards still. But they're going to get rid of that because they want to save the environment, so they're going to go to proof of stake.
Right. Well, I'm not even going that far. I think they have.
That's what they're saying.
I mean, once they're not going to proof of stake, because the moment they go to proof of stake, it's game over. They're done. So I don't think they're ever going to make it there. I think the
latest blog post talks about how they're going to do it.
They're not going to do it. It's either A, going to collapse before that, or B, they're going to realize that it will collapse the moment they go to it. They're not going to do it. But before we get there, you know what?
Let's just get to the. Want to watch the video?
Then we'll
reflect.
I will play devil's advocate against myself for 1 second. There are issues with current gambling sites. We're talking about gambling sites. And the issue with current gambling sites is you have to make an account, and you have to put all your money there, whether it's Bitcoin, whether it's fiat, doesn't matter. And at every day you wake up, you hope that your money is there. Because guess what? The owners of that site wake up every day and they have to make a decision. Do we pay people back, or do we run away with millions of dollars?
Exit scams.
So once your gambling site gets too big, I would worry. And if it's too small, I would worry. But in between that, you're okay. So the perfect gambling site would be one, and I used one actually in the Bitcoin space, but he couldn't keep it going. The perfect gambling site is you want to make a bet, you have a QR code. You put the QR code, and the QR code serves as a smart contract. If your game wins, you get paid out within 24 hours back to yourself. Within 24 hours or within a reasonable time span, you get your winnings. If the bet lost, you get nothing. But this way, you never let your Bitcoins sit at the gambling site. You just get them back.
Huh. Yeah, I'm not so sure about that. But we got Jop here in the chat. He brought up that it is CPU and GPU mining right now.
Okay.
And there's actually one mining pool that controls 51% of all the mining.
I'm pretty sure I know which one that is because I was just talking to the guy and he said we are doing he thinks he's more than 50%. Okay. Let me just put it that way. I spoke to him the other day. I'm not going to say who it is because I honestly don't care. And like he told me this, I'm like, okay, cool.
Yeah.
I'll just keep this knowledge to myself.
Yeah. Well,
and I have an idea of who that is. But now we're getting to the price of Ethereum. So we're going to play something. So this right here. We'll put the video in the show notes. I was at this event in 2014. You have to watch this clip in full. I had no idea this video existed. I tweeted it out the other day. It went from 500 views to 1,000 views. It's been on YouTube for, oh my God, 2 years. March 31st, 2014. It's been 2 years. It just doubled in views in the last 3 days. This was the Doge Party. This is when everyone thought that Doge is the new Bitcoin because its price was going up. So we're going to play you like a short clip, but it's a 10-minute video. It's priceless.
It's a real gem. Okay, here it comes.
What we're going to do is take the mother of all group pictures. We're going to replace the bull's head with the Doge's head.
Fractal, who is this sort of...
So that they have a Doge head. They have like a plastic Doge head that they're going to bring to the bull.
On the Wall Street Bull. And so just over the course of 2 days, they just made it. And it was awesome.
Are you guys ready? Does everybody know where the after party is? The after party at the moon. To the moon.
To the moon.
Everyone's in wearing t-shirts.
Down with the ball! Up with the go! Down with the ball! Up with the go!
Technologies built on the blockchain are like definitely the future. I think they're going to revolutionize everything. And that's one of the reasons that I'm so interested in Dogecoin is that I think it's kind of inevitable that we're going in that direction. And I would much rather live in a world that's built on the principles of Dogecoin than one where built on the principles of some of these other Bitcoin derivatives that were made purely out of greed.
Okay.
We can cut it there.
That's enough.
So if you heard that last part, it was like a person said, I would much rather live in a world where it's built on something like Doge and not something like derivatives of Bitcoin, which is greed. What do you say to that?
Well, they were euphoric about the price, and right now Ethereum is euphoric about the price. But you have a history as a trader. Have you seen stocks where the price, everyone's confident in the price, and then it just goes straight down? Like that happens, right?
It does happen, and look, people make good money.
Price is not always an indication of future performance. Like it might be good right now, but will it go? How do you think about that?
The price on any stock is always a speculation.
Mm-hmm.
People are like earnings ratios. It's the price of anything is speculation. It took Amazon like 10 years to be profitable, and it kept going up. It's always on the expectation of the future. It's what you think about the future of it, and these things do get irrational. Now, I actually just found out that the original Ethereum crowd sale was 2,000 ethers for one Bitcoin.
I think Bitcoin was at that point was in the 800 range.
I think it was like in the 800 range. Now I need to sit down and do this math because I know they pre-mined 60 million ethers, was it?
Oh, is that how they did the pre-sale? They pre-mined it?
Right, and the reason, well, of course, how else would they do it? I mean, it's, I don't know how else you do a pre-sale. I mean, they had, and the reason I know it's 60 million is because when I looked at the market caps of all these coins, this is before Ethereum went to live trading and mining.
Mm-hmm.
It said exactly 60 million, and I find, round numbers. I'm like, oh, okay, so 60 million was what they pre-created, and they did their crowd sale. So I think it was, if you did it on the first day, it was like 2,000 ethers per Bitcoin. If you did it on the second day or on the second week, I don't remember. I wasn't paying attention. It was less. So the earlier you got in with your 1 Bitcoin, the more ethers you got. So the math that I want to do is, we know how much Bitcoin they received.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe people listening can do the math.
I think I've read it was around 18 million.
In dollars, right? But again, but the prices always fluctuate, right? And I don't know how many of those people got it on what day, so I don't know how many ethers went out, right? But if someone can back test the math, right, there were 60 million ethers, and on which days how many ethers you got per Bitcoin. So I don't know if they sold them all out. I don't know. I would love to take a look at that math.
Oh, I see.
Right? So they had X amount of ethers.
What happened to those ones that weren't sold?
What happened to the ones that weren't sold? That's one question. The other question is, I don't know all of the co-founders of Ethereum. I'm still I'm asking a lot of people that know better than me. I can name you probably 8 people off the top of my head. Maybe you know some.
I don't. I come across people now and then, but they always list themselves as the founder versus co-founder, which always kind of.
Yeah, they're all just co-founders. I mean, several of them are made it public who they are. Obviously, Vitalik Buterin, Gavin Wood, who some think, including myself, was the actual mastermind of the operation. Though others think that was Mark. Hodgkinson, thank you. Was it Mark? What was his first name?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
But his last name is Hodgkinson.
Hodgkinson, right.
Charles?
Charles Hodgkinson, thank you. So he's another co-founder that something was the brains of the original brains of the operation. And there were others. Anthony DeLorio was one. I believe Joe Lubin is one. There's more. I started putting the list together. You just lose track of all of them. There's a bunch of them. And what happened to the Ethereum tokens that were not sold in the crowd sale? And we can calculate how many of those are.
Somebody can tweet this out. I think this is a perfect little mission someone can do for us. But Nicola just dropped in to let us know that when this pre-sale happened, the coins didn't actually exist yet. That's a big problem I have with Ethereum, is that Ethereum had a price before it existed. That makes me very, very skeptical, because Bitcoin took a long time to earn that price.
Well, but they didn't exist. But that doesn't matter if they existed or not, right? The question is, they got their 2,000. I guess they got them like a year and a half later when they went, to the mining structure, right? So it doesn't really matter if you hold them or they'll give it to you after, right? But the point is, they had. I saw 60 million, like a static 60 million, in the market caps.
What do you think about market cap in general? Because we were talking about price, and price is, always a level of speculation. But are market caps useful? So, like, if I have 1 billion tokens, and I sell one for $1, do I have a $1 billion market cap all of a sudden, right?
You do, because it's based on last sale. That's how bond market functions as well, because a lot of them are so illiquid. That's how it works. But
because CoinMarketCap is a site that people look at all the time, and the market cap is how they're ranked.
That is true. That is how they're ranked. But again, you have to be just smart as an individual to see how liquid is your asset.
Liquidity matters more than market cap.
Right. Well, market cap matters, but in the context of liquidity.
I see.
Right. So if you have liquidity, then your market cap means a lot. If you don't have liquidity, then it doesn't really mean all that much. But again,
As soon as you start trying to exit, that's going to start change rapidly.
So again, I could be wrong about it, but again, this is why I had problems with Ethereum from the beginning. I don't have a problem when someone looking to decentralize my contracts. My problem was the speculative token that was created in a crowd sale. It was done out of Switzerland, and from what I heard at the time, they were frantically moving to Switzerland because they knew what they were doing was illegal. They knew it.
You brought that up at the meeting.
I did. They knew what they were doing was illegal. They think Switzerland law will protect them. Maybe it will, maybe it won't. My opinion is that a lot of these co-founders, they're going to be in serious legal trouble, and Gavin Wood is already in legal trouble, and we can play that clip because he said it like a year ago.
Bank accounts closed?
Yeah, he got his bank accounts closed, and he's being investigated for money laundering. Now, again, I don't think it was. I'm very anti-money laundering, so I don't think what he did was a crime. But the government does, right? That's what matters. It doesn't matter what I think. It doesn't matter what he thinks.
Yeah.
It matters what the government thinks, and more importantly, it matters what the government can prove. And when you go out and you let people just deposit cash into your bank account because you're selling them Bitcoins or whatever else, the government's going to get suspicious.
It's risky.
And I think what they did with the Ethereum crowd sale is more risky than that. No matter what jurisdiction did it on, they could have done it on the moon. It doesn't matter. The U.S. is still king. And if they want to go after you, they'll go after you. Especially
because they have identifiable founders who created the thing. Like, those people are putting themselves at risk for being held responsible for all the activity. And they don't, and I think they know that a little bit, and that's why some of them live overseas. But what came up when you brought that up at the meeting was like, I think the pushback was like, well, we have a 27-page contract or something that they'll have to wade through to get at us. But like, I don't think a 27-page piece of paper is going to stop a government from crushing like your face. I kind of find it ironic how they hired all these lawyers to create this 27-page contract on paper to create a decentralized way to get around contracts and lawyers. I don't wish anyone to get locked up or to have trouble with the government. I don't. I think they could have been smarter, and they think they're smarter than the government, and they weren't. Like, if they were smarter, we wouldn't know their names. We wouldn't know their faces. We wouldn't, I'm sorry, but like, I don't wish.
Yeah, no.
I
don't wish that either. I don't agree with that. I speak out against many things that the government does. But again, there's a reason why Satoshi's a ghost.
Exactly.
There was a reason why Satoshi's a ghost, and these guys didn't take that route. They really should have. If they believed in it so much, I mean, Satoshi must have put in 10 years into this. I'm guessing, on and off.
At least 2 years of active coding. But before that, like, just theoretical,
and before that,
he's probably involved in other projects.
And I don't know. It's like they're asking for trouble. They're asking for trouble. I think that I just think they're asking for trouble. I mean, I can leave it at that. I think those are most of my thoughts on Ethereum. Yeah, and I think we covered the meetup. I don't know. It's still weird seeing you in a suit.
For the listeners who aren't watching a video we're making right now, I am in a suit because I want to be taken seriously.
And I'm like dressed like a Bitcoiner, basically. But and we are in Dan's apartment here in Brooklyn, which is awesome. So I was expecting him to be more dressed down because it's his place. But thanks for hosting me.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for coming.
All right. Anything else you want to say before we end the Ethereum chat?
No, that's it. Thanks.
All right, guys. Thanks for listening. See you. Hopefully I'll be around for the next episode of
Unconfirmed Transactions.
All right.
I'm just gonna stop this one so that was like an hour.
Yeah.
And we're still live, by the way.
Yeah, we're still live. We wanted to keep it under an hour. That was the podcast episode. So for those listening live, we might take like a short 5-minute break, and we might as well film the next Unconfirmed Transaction episode for the podcast, which will be mostly about the Senate hearings that took place just the other day. If you guys want to stick around.
Yeah, stick around. We'll take a break, and we'll come back, and we'll be broadcasting again. Thanks.